Everyone, welcome to the second quarter review here at Tolmiros Financial. Certainly got off to an interesting start there at the beginning of April. Many of you may have seen your accounts pull back a little bit during that time frame. Your markets actually drew down more than 19% in a very short period of time. Obviously with the tariff uncertainty there initially, but the quarter really finished strong. So we had U.S. markets up over 10%, small caps up over 8%. And then in the international side as well, up over 9%. So really the globe rebounded nicely. Bonds hung in there. They were positive as well for the quarter. But I would say that really the story of this calendar year has been the resilience of international markets at the moment.
Yeah, when we look at the first quarter and the second quarter collectively, the standouts are internationals for a number of reasons. From what we can tell, naturally, we've seen the dollar weakening in our economy here, which generally bodes well for international markets, particularly emerging markets. And we also have seen maybe a little flight to better valuation due to the uncertainty that's being presented by trade policy. So, there are, frankly, elevated valuations across U.S. markets given the run-up that we've enjoyed over the last few years. And this seemed like a decent time to maybe get into some better valuation points, across markets. So internationals have held very, very high so far this year. And as we look into here the third quarter, we are going to see a little bit more uncertainty here as we start out in July. Again, we had such a brutal April that was followed by a 60-day pause. But that 60-day pause is coming to an end. And so right now, the current U.S. administration is obviously reintroducing tariff rates, and the globe is going to react to that again. So I think our anticipation is that we might see some volatility, some bounce around those policy decisions, here throughout the third quarter, maybe bleeding into the fourth quarter. But where we stood at the end of the second is not too bad considering where we were mid-April, right?
At the end of the quarter, the Senate also passed the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, which is going to keep taxes at historic lows, frankly. So we extended the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Also some good benefits to the standard deduction, particularly for folks over the age of 65. So it looks like there's going to be an increase depending on your income level and marital status between 6 and 12 grand, which is nice. Another thing that's been brought to our attention, obviously, the Trump accounts for infants born between 2025 and 2028. These are accounts that'll be seeded with government funds up to $1,000, and then they'll be invested in a U.S. index, so the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, something similar. So that's an interesting concept. We wanted to touch on that. We're still learning how those are actually going to be opened up and where they'll be custodied. But from a tax standpoint, obviously the free money is free money. So it's certainly going to be hard to turn that down if you had a baby sometime this year. But I do think depending on what the goal of the money is, we're still very convicted in the use of 529 plans, given the tax advantages there. With those accounts, the child will have full access at age 30, but it's going to work similar to an IRA. So the gains are going to get taxed at ordinary income. Also, there's penalties if you take it prior to 59 and a half. So it really is designed for retirement. But if you have additional questions on that as you come in here throughout the rest of the year, we're happy to talk through it as we learn more.
And one bit of internal news that we're excited to share, Caitlin Adey, our Director of Operations, just graduated with a certificate in leadership and management from Kent State University. Really proud of her and want to acknowledge her for the effort it takes. And again, part of our theme of just continuing development and continuing knowledge here at Tolmiros.
Hope everyone has a great rest of the summer, and I'm sure we'll see most of you soon here.
Take care.